a LinkedIn expert, career coach, and university recruiter at Cox Communications. So, Serena, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lena. And I'm really excited to be speaking with you all today. I actually was in your shoes not too long ago, and today I want to share with you some things that I wish that someone had told me earlier, whether that be in high school or in college. So I graduated from college in 2020, and I currently work as a university recruiter at a Fortune 500 company. People ask me all the time if I knew I wanted to be in recruiting all along, but 5 years ago, I would have never imagined myself doing this. I actually wanted to do something completely different. And I've had a lot of unexpected things happen during my journey. So the first thing I want to tell you is that it's normal and it's totally okay if you don't know what you want to do. It's okay if you still don't know what you want to do. Even if you are pretty set on your career, you never know what can happen in a few years. So I thought I knew what I wanted to do for 10 years of my life. I thought I was going to be a third grade teacher. Working with kids was my dream job. I thought it was my destiny because third grade was so special to me, and I worked with kids my whole life, and I really enjoyed teaching. So let me know in the chat if you've ever wanted to become a teacher yourself. But then I tried it. I was in a program in high school that let me do an internship, so I went for it, and I interned for my own third grade teacher. I loved it too. It was a lot of fun. I love the kids loved me, but I quickly realized that it just wasn't for me. So you see, by going through that experience, I realized that there were major parts of the job that actually didn't fit me. I couldn't change the fact that my personality was more on the introverted side. That meant that I couldn't be around 20 kids for 8 hours a day because that was going to burn me out. I just wasn't built for that. And I also knew that it was going to be a struggle for me to wake up at 5 a.m. every day because I wasn't a morning person, and I'm still not a morning person. At the end of that internship, I was thinking, okay, great. Now I'm back at square one. I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but now I have absolutely no idea. And that's the thing, like knowing what you don't want to do can be just as helpful as knowing what you do want to do. I even applied to college as an undecided major. And looking back, I can't even imagine what would have happened if I hadn't done that internship. I could have wasted 4 years of college taking classes for something that was never meant for me. So I'm glad I had that experience as early as possible. I would encourage you to also do the same. Don't wait until your junior or senior year of college to try different things. There are a lot of programs out there that actually target students in high school, target students who are underclassmen in college. So don't be afraid to seek those out and try those. I think we also have this myth that adults have it all figured out, but most of them don't. Social media might make it seem like they have it all put together. They might look really put together on the outside, but for a lot of people, it's really normal to just not be sure of what your end goal is. I certainly don't subscribe to a 10-year plan, and I don't know if I'll be in the same career for the rest of my life. So give yourself permission to evolve and change. That's totally okay. The second lesson I want to share is to recognize the ultimate purpose of school. So whether you're in high school or you're in college right now, it's important to recognize that the end goal of college and the end goal of school is certain things, right? Things like getting a job and being able to make money. And you just don't want to get caught up in the weeds and get too honed into school mode. We all joke that if we get bad grades, then we're going to end up homeless. But that's not true, okay? That's not true. After your first job, after college, nobody really cares about your GPA. They don't care about what your major is. Unless you're going to graduate school where your GPA really does matter, don't work too hard to make your GPA as close to a 4.0 as possible and then end up sacrificing the other things in life. So the purpose of college is to get a job. The purpose of a job is to make money. purpose of money is to travel, to be with friends, to live well, etc. And so there are plenty of ways to get to the end goal of doing all those things. And there are plenty of other ways to make money as well. I mean, it's also a societal pressure that you need to go to college in order to get a job. You know, certainly you do need to get a degree in order to go to certain professions, but not for all professions, I would say. You could even end up, creating a side hustle during college, which you could take full time. If you wanted to be a TikToker or a YouTuber, you can definitely make time to dedicate to that. You can also intern or co-op during college. A lot of people try to graduate on time, but a lot of people also tend to graduate off schedule, and a lot more people do that than you think. So some people might change their majors 3 times and have to graduate in 5 years instead of 4. So don't be afraid to delay your graduation because it could be worth it in the long term. The company that I currently work at, we offer the option to do a co-op, which means that you can do 3 full semesters of work experience before you graduate. And I didn't even know things like this existed when I was in college. So definitely consider options like that, even if it means not doing what all your friends are doing and instead having to take a gap semester or 2 and delay your graduation. And going back to how I said how unimportant grades are for certain professions. I know I say that because I graduated in 3.5 years with a 3.95 GPA, but I actually missed out on a lot of opportunities. Because I prioritized my classes over my career, I procrastinated on getting ready for recruitment season during my sophomore and junior year. So I wish I would have gotten a little bit more work experience before I entered the real world. So what I would do, and this is my mistake, is I would start looking for summer internships in March, which was only like 2-3 months before the summer internships would actually start. But I should have been looking for them in August of the previous year, so 8 months prior. And if I did that, I could have landed summer internships that paid about $10,000 USD a semester. But instead, I paid for that mistake, and I ended up taking unpaid internships. But on a similar note, it's okay to not have a dream job, and you might even reach a point where you're tired of giving your labor to a company and you just want to be a housewife or a stay-at-home dad, or you might want to be an entrepreneur and do your own thing. But I don't think that you necessarily have to love your job 100% of the time, and you just need to find a job that aligns with your personality and that won't burn you out 100% of the time. And then once you detach your grades from your career, you'll start realizing how much more important it is to gain that real world experience than to gain knowledge from the classroom. Nothing is truly going to teach you more than doing it yourself. And the third lesson I wanted to share is that you're going to face rejection and disappointment. In the next few years, if you hadn't already, you're probably going to face a lot of rejections. You might be rejected by dream colleges, by dream leadership positions, by dream companies. And I wish I would have braced myself for the number of rejections that I was going to receive in college. I remember applying for so many honor societies and leadership positions when I was a freshman in college, and I really wanted to land those positions, but I went in for interview after interview after interview, but time after time, I just kept getting rejection emails. But in the end, I'm glad I didn't get some of these opportunities because I eventually found the ones that were meant for me. Not only did I face rejections, but I also faced a lot of disappointment. Even if you are accepted for something that you really want, it's possible that it might not work out. Even if you get into your dream college, you might not be in the financial situation to go. Even if you get accepted into a position or a program, a family emergency could just completely change that. And I think that we can all agree that COVID is a good example of this. So just like you, I was really disappointed at how COVID ruined my plans last year. I really wanted to go on this study abroad trip to Oxford for a semester, and I had been dreaming about this since freshman year. I had friends who were raving about it and were telling me to go, and I was so excited when I finally got accepted into the program. Then COVID hit, and a couple months before I was supposed to start the program, it got canceled. But the bright side of the tunnel is that if you choose to take action, something completely unexpected can come out of the negative. So for me, I took to LinkedIn to express my disappointment, and that was the start of my journey of content creation on LinkedIn. And less than a year later of posting consistently on LinkedIn, I now have over 10,000 followers. And that never would have happened if it weren't for the pandemic. So I would love to hear if any of you are on LinkedIn too. Drop your LinkedIn URL, connect with each other. Feel free to connect with me too. I'd love to connect with you. And so for you, maybe COVID also affected your plans. Maybe it prevented you from having that freshman experience during college. Maybe it prevented you from having that senior trip you were wanting to plan. Maybe it canceled your internship or your summer job. But life doesn't stop when it's not perfect. It's up to you to find opportunities where you're currently at and to make the most of them. Lesson number 4 that I would like to share is that you can't do everything. We're not Superman, can't do everything and anything. So when I was in high school, what kept me going was being involved in extracurricular activities, so much to the point where senior year, I had 9 officer positions. I was your classic yes man. I did everything I could to beef up my college applications, and I was collecting every opportunity that came my way. And I genuinely did enjoy each of these clubs that I was in, but I just wasn't being strategic enough. Naturally what happens when you hold 9 leadership positions is that you end up dropping the ball on some of them just because it's impossible to give your all into everything. And at the end of the year, I just felt guilty that I hadn't lived up to the promises that I had set. Luckily, I fixed this problem when I got into college and started strategically choosing which clubs to invest my time and energy into. I started focusing on the impact that I could make in a few organizations instead of spreading myself thin. And this is a problem I see in a lot of high achievers. There are just so many opportunities out there, and people have this mentality that they should take as many as possible. But in the end, you're just doing yourself a disservice if you're putting 50% into 4 different things instead of 100% into 2 different things. We're not Superman. We can't do it all. We only have 24 hours in a day. We have to eat 3 meals. We have to sleep 8 hours. And we need a social life to stay sane. And outside of that, spreading yourself too thin isn't going to help you, and it's not going to help other people. In a world where everyone is scrambling to squeeze things on the resume, be strategic and choose to make an impact instead. And the last lesson that I want to impart on you is that mentors matter. So mentors are important in guiding you along your journey because it's really difficult to figure things out by yourself. Talking to other people can help you gain clarity on what you really want to do and also avoid mistakes along the way. I know it's daunting to find mentors, and it seems like this whole formal process in order to find someone who's willing to mentor you, but there are more people out there than you might think. When people can see your hunger and your curiosity and your drive, they want to be a part of that journey. So the first part is just affirming the fact that you are worthy of a mentor, regardless of what background you come from. If you're from a minority background or you don't have as many financial resources, there are still a lot of people that want to help people like you. A lot of professionals are really busy, but the right person will make the time for you. Now, I know a lot of people talk about having mentors, but they don't really tell you how to find one. So here are a few of my tips. The first thing to keep in mind is that mentorship should be organic and it doesn't have to be super formal. It could be a family friend, someone at work, or simply older friends that you can go to for advice. So the first thing you can do is just start talking to people who are a couple of years older than you. Ask people in school clubs or upperclassmen if you can ask them some questions about their career or what college they're going to, how they figured out, how to study for a particular class that's really difficult. And every mentoring relationship starts with a question, but the question isn't, can you be my mentor? You actually don't really want to just drop this question to anyone. The question is more like, I'm trying to figure this out. Can you help me? And a lot of people would be willing to help you. A second tip is to sign up for mentorship programs. So my university had one. There are also a lot of nonprofits out there that can bring in guest speakers like this and connect you to resources. Then the third thing I would say is cold outreach. If you're an introvert like me, networking in person can be really daunting, and you can make this easier by simply sending messages to people online. So my favorite way to do this is by using LinkedIn. I'll look at companies that I want to work for and find alumni from my school who currently work there. And then I will send them a personalized invite and ask if they would be willing to chat with me. So this helped me immensely in trying to figure out what I wanted to do for my career, and following up with them every so often and continuing to set up calls is a great way to start a mentoring relationship. Overall, LinkedIn is an amazing place to find people, and I've met great mentors and friends who work at places like Google and Microsoft because of it. So with all of that being said, those are my 5 lessons. Number 1, it's okay to not have it all figured out. Number 2 is know what the purpose of school is. Number 3, rejection and disappointment are inevitable. Number 4 is don't try to do everything. And then number 5 is seek mentors. So overall, I hope everyone was able to take something away from this. And thank you so much for allowing me the opportunities to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Serena. That was amazing. Does anyone have any questions for Serena that you guys want to ask? But thanks again. That was amazing.
So I have a few questions. First of all, where did you go to college? And secondly, how did you find out that you wanted to do recruiting?
Yeah, great question. So I went to the University of Georgia, which is in the southeast of the United States. And how I found recruiting was, as I said, just trying out a bunch of things. So initially I wanted to be a teacher. That didn't work out. I went to college as an undecided major, but the way that I figured out what to actually major in was looking back at the classes that I took in high school. So my favorite class in high school was AP Psychology. So I actually majored in psychology, added a sociology major along with it too. And then, I thought about going into academia, becoming a professor. I was really interested in industrial organizational psychology, which is a specialty within psychology. And it's kind of like a merge of psychology and business. But then I tried research labs. I thought it was not exactly the culture that I wanted to be in, and I didn't want to write papers and essays all day long and do research. So then I decided to go a little bit off track and go into HR, which is pretty similar to industrial organizational psychology, but it's just more on the corporate side and it's a little bit more hands-on. And then once I got into HR, I did a couple internships in that. And then recruiting was just one of the little facets of HR that I had enjoyed during my internships, and I decided to pursue that.
Okay.
Yeah, great question. Any others?
Yeah, I have a question. So what was the big obstacle you faced while interning as an HR?
Yeah, so what was the biggest obstacle I faced while interning in HR?
Yes.
Okay, got it. I don't know about like HR specifically. I would say that, being an intern, sometimes it's difficult to kind of like get the hang of things at first. So, for example, like you're going to show up and there might not be a lot of training ready for you. So you really have to rely on your manager in order to, ask these kinds of questions and figure out what's going on. So for me, I think one of the biggest challenges was interning for startups because they didn't necessarily have like an HR manager who could train me at first. So, if you can, I would definitely recommend like getting internships where the manager is like someone that you want to learn from and they like actually have a lot of experience in that sector so they can pass that on to you.
Thank you.
I had one more. I had a question if we have enough time. Okay. So how would you recommend kind of balancing these opportunities that you find and that you want to commit to, but also like having time for your personal life, like you mentioned, not just only working and only not having any balance between that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, my number one tip is just scheduling everything out. So you might think it's a little strict just depending on where you are and I don't know what age of education you are, but even now and through college, like I just had to keep myself so organized and I had to make sure like, okay, I know I have meetings on Wednesday nights, I know I have meetings on Thursday evenings, and then let me go ahead and schedule some time with my friends on Saturday. So just being able to make sure like, okay, I might not have the flexibility to do a lot of spontaneous things, so that's why I need to plan things out in advance, and then just making sure that you have enough time each day dedicated to whatever you do want to do. So I love using Google Calendar. I block out my schedule and I check it all the time. I have it on my phone too, and it's been super helpful.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Serena. And I think the last question was in the chat. Hey, Serena, if your community does not support regarding college applications and helping you to mentor, what do you do then?
Yeah. Does this person want to elaborate a little bit more on their question?
I'm not too sure, but I think the person is asking, like, there are countries who are not as like give as much access as like other countries. Maybe their community does not have like college opportunities or open houses. I think that's what the person is referring to. If I'm wrong, please correct me.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I know a lot of countries don't give as much support in that area, or maybe your high school doesn't have really strong, career centers or career counselors who can help you with that kind of thing. So, Google, YouTube is your best friend. LinkedIn is also really great, like finding specific content creators on LinkedIn who specialize in the things that you're trying to specialize in like the goals that you're trying to reach. So for example, like if your goal was to find an internship, then I could be a good person to follow LinkedIn. But there are also a lot of people who talk about college applications or even talk about international students wanting to find sponsorship for a full-time opportunity. So I would say LinkedIn is a really great place to find experts like that, and you can also connect with them that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Serena. That was amazing. And again, I think all of us learned and took away something from this session. Thank you so much again for coming. It was amazing. And yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Bye. Thank you guys so much. So we're gonna get started on the next panel, which is a speed networking in like 4 minutes or so. So
yeah. So that's what's going on.